share these teachings. You've done it in a very specific way, very personal to you, I believe. And, I'm thinking about the hero's journey. You've been on your own journey, I've been on mine. And the hero journey speaks to uh, the gift of our journey. And I'm curious about, are these teachings your gift? And what do you think about that?
It's nice you bring up the hero's journey, which is, Joseph Campbell is one of the early reads, and listening to his interviews with Bill Moyer is just, he's fabulous. Not by design, but just by feel, fumbling through my journey, not knowing what's next. Getting my initial like, oh, okay, go figure out what my fears are. Let's get rid of them. Okay. Not knowing at all what I was up against, and then doing
Mm.
other things like, oh, I have these big judgmental voices, and Miguel's teachings. I'm like, we're going to get to the point of having no judgments, right? And then learning what unconditional, and working through that, and like, okay, what's unconditional love for myself? What's unconditional love for other people? Like, oh, that's a thing. I could then perceive it like, I want that. Like that
Mm.
becoming the goal. So these various steps along the way becoming my next goal and my next goal and my next goal without having a master plan of where it was all going. And how did it come to teaching? Well, one of the elements was, yeah, there was some element of teaching. And when I first started teaching, I thought, oh, yeah, this would be great. So I started teaching, had some clients and doing regular classes. But then you're asking about how I came into teaching. I was imagining getting a question down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, how do you do this in relationships and at work with your bosses or your clients and all these kinds of people? And it's like, and I scratch my eyes, like, those questions are coming, and I'm like, and my answer is, I don't know, because I haven't done them. And I thought, that's a crappy answer. That's not an acceptable answer. Like, I can't teach that because I haven't done it. I'm like, how do you stay present in your relationship? How do you stay present in your job when it's chaos or people are blaming you for things like that? And I thought, I don't know, because I'm not doing it. And so I stopped teaching.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I said, I need to know how to do this in the world. I need to know how to be present and at peace in the world. Because I could do it sitting by myself. I could do it in comfortable environments.
Yeah.
How can I do it in uncomfortable environments where I'm emotionally invested or attached? And so say, I need to put myself in essentially my own school of life to practice this in the world,
Mm-hmm.
being present, being at peace internally, controlling my own narratives, cleaning up my emotions while at work, while in relationships. And so that's was my next course of study in this kind of chain of events. And so that was, to me, was like teacher preparation without a
Mm-hmm.
grand scheme of like, oh, I want to go teach. It was like not drawn. And so I was doing that. Uh, still my counterparts were already teaching. I studied with Miguel, and I didn't feel I was ready.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, I'm not living in the world, and how can I teach what I'm not practicing?
Mm-hmm.
So then I got to a point of like, okay, I was practicing in the world and teaching, and then there became a day where I was at an event with Miguel. This is how I got into teaching. And it's probably 150 people there at an event, and it was kicking off in the first evening. And we're having this big fire get together around the fire. And I was watching what Miguel was doing. And I could just feel him just sending all this love out to everybody. And was it impactful to people, whether they realized it or not? I mean, they'd come for that. They usually maybe have been around his presence or know enough to be impacted by him. And, I kind of moved along enough to like, not only could I feel what he was doing, I could see what he was doing from the side he was sending it and receiving it. I was like, okay, so he's showing up here. He's loved and appreciated. That's pretty nice. And his
Mm-hmm.
job for the whole next 3-4 days is just to love people unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets paid for this. I'm like, I want to do this. Show up, love people unconditionally, help them out of the stories and cobwebs and spiderwebs they want to get out of. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. And that was my inspiration.
Mm. Yeah.
That's how it
Yeah, I
happened.
can
And then
see.
there was iterations of changes in teaching over time from that about what is this relationship and role and why do I do this? And then there was another conversation I had with him after I was, you know, went to walking in Mexico at Teotihuacan. And I said, you've done so much. I live at peace in my life. I don't have the judgmental thoughts and fears. And thank you. And you know, what what can I do for you? And it was before I finished the what can I do for you? I was like, he's already at peace, he's happy. He's like, he doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
But he said, well, if you want to, he said, and this is important, if you want to, share share what you learn and what you do with others.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is that hero's journey of the fool fumbling towards this transformational experience and getting this called wisdom or unconditional love or some patience and some compassion and some understanding and bringing it back. Uh, that I do because it's fulfilling.
Mm.
I had a call this morning with a few people in the community and worked through some stuff. And I'm like, I felt better after the call than before. I
Yeah.
was like, that was a nice part of my day. What did I do? I spent the hour and a half loving people. Oh yeah, and we talked about the stories, but uh, to show up, and be in that energy is is as transformative as the mechanics of changing the narratives. I mean,
Yeah.
and in some ways, more important, more fundamental to the change.
Yeah, absolutely. As you're saying that, I listen to Ram Dass, and I've got a particular one I listen to over and over and over, um, The Journey of the Heart. And he talks about meeting in the place of love. And, I think when we're suffering from trauma or stress or life, um, we can feel it very hard to get to that place of love. And we think we have to do some very specific things to get connected to love. It's hard, and there's right ways and wrong ways to do it. And I think, what I've learned from you over the years is you're able to access that place of love. And initially, I couldn't get there by myself. And so, you know, in your presence, you seem to be accessing it very easily. It allows me or another person to say, oh, can I be there too? Can I be there with you? I want to share, you know, in what you've got going on here, this access to love. I want to be able to access that. And, you know, over time, we learn I can also access that place of love. I can be in the place of love. And I think, when we are able to access that, then there's a natural desire to share that and say, yeah, we can access this place of love together.
And it feels good.
Mm.
Okay. I do it because it feels good. The message is love. It's a fundamental message. And all of
Yeah.
these little things are obstacles, stories, the spider web, the neural pathways to trauma. It's like, okay, we have to go through these obstacles. But here's the holy grail to drink this nourishing nectar of love that comes out of us. But it's all covered up with those stories, fears, and false
Yeah.
beliefs, right? So we got to remove the obstacles. And then when it comes out, it's like, oh, this is the best.
Mm.
And if you ever have that something delicious food, you're at a restaurant, you're like, oh my God, this is delicious. You want to put somebody's like, here, try this. Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
share it. You want to share it. Why? Because there's an abundance of it. The more it flows outward, the more it touches people, the more they feel it, the more they're fed, they're nourished, then they have enough to share. But it's about filling up that tank, uh, emptying out the fears and the lies and the false beliefs. Fill up that, feel your heart, know you have access to it, but and then it's like, okay, now it's overflowing. I want it to go out some more. And with Miguel, it was overflowing, and he
Mm.
poured it into us. And I'd go to an event and get filled up, and then sometime later I'd drain down. I was backing by some stories, but a little bit better. I'd fill up an event and drain back down. I fill up an event, drain back down. But I kept starting to build the baseline because it was less and less fear and less lies and less judgment over time. So I could feel more of it until I could access it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I don't think many of us would admit that we're scared of love for whatever reason. We've been hurt in loving relationships, supposedly, supposed to be loving relationships. Or we think, yeah, that love relationship means they want something from me, or, they're going to have too much power over me, or all those sorts of stories that we can have, or I don't deserve love. All the stories that get in the way of
We can have a
accessing.
whole session on how we distorted a whole meaning of love and false beliefs about it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. There's usually a lot of fear and resistance connected to that idea, and feeling hurt is associated with it. It's, like pain and love and pain and heartbreak and love. It's like being responsible and being at fault have been intertwined together to where we don't want to be responsible, but it's where power is. But it's intertwined with finding fault and feeling blamed, right? So it's like, no, how do we clean clean the awareness of love just by itself without any of the others attachments to it, associations to it?
Yeah.
It'd be life changing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apart from the online lessons and your book, I know that you're really passionate about your power journeys and retreats.
Yeah.
Uh, what's the secret sauce there for you?
Oh, you're asking, what are you asking?
What what do the power journeys and retreats offer that is different to the online courses or doing the work in the book?
It's a kind of magic, you know. But if you're behind the curtain and you see how the magic is done, it's not magic.
Mm.
Um, there's a field of consciousness, life force consciousness. It's everywhere. And when you spread your awareness and you connect with it, you start to move around love. Just when you move into your own observer state and you say, oh, that's a fear and I can move that, and that's a story and I don't have to believe that. You see your own personal dream stories and you're like, oh no, I can let that go and I can let that go. And I'm not going to believe this. I'm going to forgive here, and it transforms. Okay. So you're in this personal dream and you can change that field of your personal dream. Well, we're in a big collective dream. And in that collective dream, when we do an event like that, much will put everybody in a big collective dream of love. Right? So now when you go to a change of story, which we do very intentionally, there isn't the web pushing you back. Oh, what will this be and who will I be and all of that. There's this collective field of consciousness and presence that you're accessing, that you're in, that you look at that story in fear and in doubt with, and you're like, well, I don't think I need that. And I'm not going to believe that. So you get infused with a consciousness and an awareness and a love that makes it safe to make those changes. Okay.
Mm.
So that's happening in the whole collective field, and that happens in the relationships we build with one another. Uh, so there's a whole energy in the ceremonies and the process and the week that uh, is life force conscious intent. That, say, for instance, Teotihuacan is built for that sort of thing. Like the actual
Mm.
grounds is set up with the intent for certain areas to be for certain transformations, and we follow that. We use the generations, the thousands of years of collective energy that's there to make our personal transformation happen faster.
Yeah. Just as you were speaking there, and reflecting on my own journey, doing the work. Initially, I started online, and then I went to one of your retreats. And I think the online, it does allow knowledge. You share your knowledge and practices. There is also an experiential aspect to it in that we start doing practices at home, um, very much from the safety of our own home and our own environment. And, we can even stay in our identity, really. I can just keep being me, really, my
Mm-hmm.
constructed identity at home. And it allows for a separation between myself and other people. And it certainly did for me. I felt very separate. And going to your retreats, it's very hard to stay separate. And that feeling that just safe and cocooned, and I can just keep doing what I'm doing, really. There's much more of a move into the experiential aspect of it and the relational aspect of the work.
Yeah. You're no longer you're going from I'm doing this practice in my head and here in my journal to I'm doing this in a walking meditation with 20 other people walking together. Okay. And I'm breathing this meditation with my body. Okay. So it's going from being in your head to being a full body. Okay. And it's instead of like, oh, I journaled for 20 minutes, I journaled for an hour, and then you put it away. No, it's like, okay, we're having breakfast around these people. We're doing yoga in the morning around these people with a conscious intent. Okay. We go walking to the grounds with a conscious intent. We go do ceremony with a conscious intent. It's like you've opened up the journal and you spend 10 hours with it, your whole body
Mm.
doing it, as opposed to you close the journal and now you're off busy in your day. No, you're busy in your day for 10 hours, feeling it, embodying the change. So you've done a month's worth of work or change in a day.
Mm.
Okay.
And collect.
And we don't go close the book and go back to our old self the next day. We take that change and we add some more, and we take that change, we add some more, we take that change, we add some more, you know. Whereas when you're doing work on your own, you did some work and then you go back to your old habits. You did some work, you go back to your old habits. Like, no, we're compounding the change. So there's a lot of factors why there's magic happening in a very short time.
Yes, yes. And something's coming to me about, I think a lot of the work initially, particularly for me, was around increasing my self-awareness, being more authentic, connecting with my needs and desires and addressing those and being more authentic. And, authenticity is super important in life, and so is attachment. And so learning to be authentic and attached at the same time, right? I often have people say to me, oh, it's so easy to be authentic when I'm by myself. Yes, it is.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
right, right.
But when I'm with other people, then can I stay authentic when I'm attached to other people? Can I stay feeling safe when I'm with other people? And, I think there's something really beautiful that happens at those retreats. We're sharing in each other's journeys. We actually become part of each other's journeys. And I know I'm still connected with people that I met years ago
Good friends. Yeah.
because, yeah, we're part of each other's hero's journey
Yeah.
and part of the resources that we needed for that hero's journey. And, I don't think we can necessarily just do that at home by ourselves.
We can't do it at home by ourselves. You bring in this important element. It's like, here's an experience of relationship. Here's an experience of relationship with 20 other people where if you if you haven't been your first week, like you're finding out in a few days and you may not cognitively realize it by the end of the week, you don't may not have used these words, but you're like, I love these people. And gosh, they accept me and love me just the way I am.
Mm.
And so now you have what for me, going on a journey, I didn't have to be something I wasn't. I didn't have to be inauthentic in order to be liked. I didn't have to impress anybody. I mean, I'm still trying to. It's like really ridiculous. But I could see it. I'm like, why am I trying to impress this person? What's coming out of my mouth? I was like, bleh. you know, in the and so you have this container of how you are received. And all of these things we show up with our adaptive strategies and masks, we're like, I don't need that. This is me. This is what I feel. And everybody goes, okay, good for you. What would you like now?
Mm.
Because there's enough people who've been there, people coming back for the second, third, fifth, eighth time, know that that's how we're going to meet. meet you, right?
Mm.
And oh, somebody's going to break down and cry. Okay, somebody will go sit with them. You need anything? We'll be alone. Okay, good. Break down and
Yeah.
cry. And it's like, you mean this is okay? Like, yeah, it's okay. Like, to be completely accepted there, like that, is is a message that a lot of us didn't get or don't remember or haven't experienced in life, to be unconditionally accepted and loved. And
Mm.
when you experience that, you know what that is? You receive that, that awakens unconditional love in you. And now you know what it feels like because you got it from somebody else.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just received unconditional acceptance and love. That felt pretty good. And it's alive in you. And you're like, you want it to grow. If you feed that seed, it's like now you're like, it comes out of you, you have it, it grows to be for yourself. Then you're like, well, I'm going to treat people that way. Okay. Now the unconditional love is spreading around.
Mm.
This is this is a secret sauce. There's power. There's a collective energy and intent and power behind that unconditional love to kind of strip away the fears and lies. But in that container of unconditional love, you're like, it's safe to let this go.
Mm. Yeah.
And
And I
be
love that
be
word
what I want to
growth.
be. Say what I want to say. Face this scared part of me that's inside that I've been hiding or didn't even see.
Yeah. Yeah. And that word container that you use, I think, I think of good enough parents say to a young child, you can have this emotion and I'm going to be here with you and we can contain it. It's not going to last forever. You're going to be okay. And I'm here with you. You're not alone. And that's what happens at the retreats as well, is you're allowed to get messy. You're allowed to cry and do whatever face goes with that or whatever emotions or actions go with that. And it's okay. It's accepted and it's contained that, you're not going to die from this
Yeah,
emotion. It's actually okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's very transformative to it's a very emotional process at a certain layer because it's unconditional love. We're letting go of fear on
Mm.
that side of like bringing in and receiving unconditional love, creating unconditional love. So it's a very emotional process, but it's a completely different inner landscape.
Yeah.
Um, I think of how clients and how they got received in their emotions and they're told that they're too much because they're or that their anxiety is a problem, where they did, just a client the other day, it's like, well, little kid, and he didn't want to go to wherever the family was going. It's like, I don't want to go. And it's like, well, it's like whatever his protest energy was like crushed.
Yeah.
And so now he's uncomfortable about going and he's afraid of his parents' response and he's afraid to talk from then on about his emotions with his parents. And so he holds this emotion inside and it's a knot inside of him. Right? And so it's like, how did people act to us when when we had emotions as kids? And most of the time, it's sit down and be quiet. You know,
Yeah.
it's a lot of it was like very few parents are present often enough to go, okay, well, you're sad. Okay, well, that's all right. Let's have that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're
Yeah.
angry. But kids don't, talk about their emotions. They act out anger. And
Yeah.
so then that gets squashed. And so that way you just hold those things inside. It's like, okay, let's go,
Yeah.
let's go find how to be. And this is the layers we've built. Like, yeah, you got sadness, you got anger. Oh, but underneath that's the unconditional love. And we're gonna sneak that in and take this out of the way. And we just do both
Yeah.
and be happy. Let that
Yeah.
joy,
And I think that,
let that joy then flow out. That's natural for young children to have and play.
yeah.
And that's why we do a lot of laughing and joking around and silliness too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And, it was so transformative for me because in the past, for me to have an emotion, I needed to go somewhere and do it privately. No one's going to see this. I'm going to do it privately. And, it happened publicly on retreats with you. And the way people responded, so lovingly, but also just normalizing having an emotion, crying, being upset, it changes the framework that we have inside that says, I need to hide when I have an emotion
Yeah,
to, or I need to suppress all emotions, even the joyful ones.
I can't let them see this. And so, and then what's like, oh, this is what normal, healthy people do when you have emotions. And what goes on in the world, that's not normal. That's not healthy. Oh, that's that thing that we call normal in society of how we treat emotions is like, well, that's a sickness. It's
Yes.
an unhealthy
Yep.
repression and hiding and masking. It's like, oh, and lying about it. So it's like, oh, okay, this is what healthy is. Yeah,
Mm.
and it's modeled by other people, and you get to feel it, you get to experience. And here's the biggest thing: it's not theory. Experience it.
Yeah.
Like I felt that. Yeah, no, and it's
Mm.
some wonderful. Some friend Ted put it on a first trip I was on to Teotihuacan. And at the end of the trip, he said, I've been to all these places, done all these things. He says, but this is the first time I found my tribe. He says, and he's like, you're all a bunch of misfits. You never fit in
I'm
anywhere,
telling people that.
Because he had a sense of it. And he's like, yeah, I always felt
Yeah.
like I didn't have a fit because to fit in, I had to be the piece that fit, In the Navy, I had to have a certain personality, and engineers a certain way. And to fit into a church, you have to believe certain things about a religion, and you have to have these political party. You have to fit in with these beliefs or social circle or culture. It's like you have to be a certain way. And he's like, I never felt like I fit in, and maybe you guys all didn't either, and then you misfits too. But it's like requiring people to distort themselves into inauthentic to
Yeah.
fit in and be accepted isn't really accepted because you're accepted for being this false thing,
Fake version of yourself. Yeah.
right? And so you don't really know what accepted is, but where are you going to find a group of people says, I'm going to show up as my authentic self, which means I got to show up with people who don't do judgments and don't do projection, and I don't try and make me fit their version and their imagination. Like, where's that group?
Yeah.
Teotihuacan. It's on a
Yeah.
power journey. It's on a power journey with us. So So,
Yeah.
so it's like, where can I take the mask off? Is in a space of unconditional love, and this is what we're going to go practice and do. Right?
Yeah. So
So
beautiful.
it's a very liberating. We call it having personal freedom. We go practice
Yeah.
personal freedom. Like take these suffocating masks, fears, false beliefs, false versions of ourselves off. Like, what do you feel? Okay, well, emotions got to go with that. We go cry that out, go scream that out, like shake that out of your body. Like, okay, well, now we have a good laugh about it. Let's get something to eat. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so powerful. It's something I say to clients all the time is you get to be as quirky as you are. And the truth is, we're quirky and I'm a super quirky person. And I actually love that about myself. And, you know, and also the freedom to change. We might be one way now, we might be different, most likely in 6 months' time. And so we don't have to keep showing up as some cookie cutter, same way over and over. Let's allow ourselves to be quirky. Let's allow ourselves to change. And yeah, the retreats are definitely a space for that. And the friendships that I've made out of the retreats continue to be a space for that.
I'm so grateful. I have the best people show up. There's just such wonderful people that show up at these things. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're a gift, and the way that we are with each other is it's like y'all make the process so easy for the new people. It's like so nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. It is a
Well,
gift.
it's in the in the realm of like visions for where I go, what I do. It's like that that microcosm experience of a small group in Teo is my vision for like a new version of community in the world.
Yeah. And so that segues perfectly into my next question.
Mm.
Uh, what's next for you? What are you curious about? What piques your interest?
My personal journey, my teaching process,
Either, both.
uh, my teaching process, I'm outlining a new program for connection. Well, I've tiered it off into several layers, uh, several different modules. Um, it's a big topic because it covers a lot of things. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I've sat back and kind of watched what people are doing, what they're not doing, what the resistance, what the hurdle is, and we've talked about this. Like so many people have trauma, and trauma is more healed in a one-on-one interaction. But then so many people have it, like enough good people that can hold space and be present with that uh, don't exist. Like you and I only have so much time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do this to scale? Right. So, and then also looking at the dialogue and discourse that people have, the disconnection they have in conversation, uh, how people are uncomfortable with their emotions and sharing about emotions. It's like people don't know how to hold space for somebody going through an emotional thing or sharing about it, right? So it starts with how to have a conversation where people connect and hold space for one another. And then how to hold space and connect when you're helping someone work through something to get them to share more and find a deeper layer. Because usually the surface layer we talk about isn't the one where the problem is or what needs attention. So then how to hold space as you explore. And then how to hold space as you explore emotions and let those unwind. And then how to hold space when you inquire and heal emotions and heal beliefs that are behind those emotions and identities. And so I've outlined this process that I was that that is going to help people heal and teach you how to help hold space for others to heal
Mm-hmm.
these emotional beliefs that we have, because I see that as much as the courses are the tools to do that. I think there's a way when we do that one-on-one, even if it's online, that if you're doing it one-on-one with a person, someone's guiding you, it's faster.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier because there's something about holding your attention in conversation that you'll stay with it a lot longer, and they're holding space, and you have and this extra set of eyes to hold witness consciousness that allows you to stay out of the web longer of stories. And so you're propelled by, supported by this presence of another that can speed your process. And you'll stay in the process longer than you will if you were just journaling by yourself, where it's uncomfortable, it's not working, I'm going to stop. Someone
Yes.
else can guide you past that discomfort, and you can have breakthroughs faster. So this is the new process that I'm envisioning and mapping out. Write
Beautiful.
up the specific exercises and modules.
Yeah. Beautiful. What about personally? What are you
Uh,
curious about? Mm.
what am I curious about? Grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like I've gone on this journey and I've pulled this information out of the cosmos, and now I need to get my feet on the ground and get grounded in my body and motivated, kind of committed, powerful to drive this, uh, execution of all this. So that's part of like, expanding into the cosmos and the consciousness. And then it's like, okay, I got to bring this into manifestation. So that that's the challenge in front of me.
Yeah, I like that
And I go
because,
and I'll do this, and then I'll go back and forth.
yeah, yeah, I'm having a vision come to mind. Just that, opening and expanding to the universe and the wisdom and the experience of that. And, also that deep feeling of just connection and gratitude to what's under your feet. Mm. Lovely, lovely. Well, as always, it's an absolute pleasure talking to you. I feel very honored um, to know you and to be able to have these conversations about, um, yeah, all of your teachings, your personal journey, digging a little deeper into both of those things. Um, yeah, absolute pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time.
Awesome.